Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corcoran here. We're glad you made it to the podcast. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing. We also have a great green tip today from Nuvi, a clean tech company helping schools intelligently electrify their fleets. And also, First Student is joining us as a podcast sponsor as well. And they are the nation's leader in student transportation solutions. A little later, we've got Taylor Ekbatani talking with Katie Delano, Director of Transportation from Coalinga-Huron USD in California. So excited for that conversation. But before we dive in, Mr. Ryan Gray is joining us for our always informative news update. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you doing, Tony?
Excellent. Getting ready for the conferences. I feel like ST and Expo Indianapolis, Reno, we've been working really hard to get registration and agenda. And the great news is it's open, right? We're ready to start taking registrations. If you guys are thinking about coming out this summer, Indianapolis, ST and Expo, that's June 2nd through the 6th. We have ST and Expo Reno, July 14th through the 19th. You guys can save $200 with our super early bird discount. So super excited to have you come out. Also save the date for the Transporting Students with Disabilities Conference down in Dallas, Texas. That's November 15th through the 20th. So jam-packed schedule. As usual, Ryan, you have your hands full with creating lots of content, I think.
Yeah, you can, for Indy, you can head over. I believe for Reno, too, we do have an agenda up. Now, there's a lot of detail that needs to be fine-tuned and filled in, but at least for Indy, you can go over and head over, check out our topics that we're planning, putting together speakers and try to drill down on some of those hot button issues that everybody needs to know about.
Excellent. And I know, Ryan, we added a new keynote for ST and Expo Indianapolis. Patrick Mulick, a friend of STN, who's a specialist in the special needs arena. But I saw he's kind of got a different topic he's diving into. You want to kind of share a little bit with the audience, kind of the direction we're going with that one?
Yeah, so on June 5th, he will join us, and he's going to be talking about foundations and de-escalation. So, looking at behavior on school buses, which certainly it includes students with special needs. He's going to touch on that, but just really looking at the tools that student transporters need across the board for any of the students that they are transporting. Obviously, kids being kids, there are run a gamut of behaviors out there, escalation on school buses in one way, shape, or form. And also, too, we've seen a lot of, parents that are boarding illegally. We've had a couple of cases recently. In fact, last fall, there was an incident in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a parent boarded a bus and threw bleach in the face of the 72-year-old bus driver. And interestingly enough, I finally got some of the records from the Charlotte police the other day, and included the 911 calls. It just, listening to the calm of the dispatchers and the transportation supervisors that are calling that in, you wouldn't know that there's an emergency going on. They're succinct. They have all their data right there. And within seconds, it helping 911 dispatch, get officers and EMS out there. And the driver turned out to be okay. She survived, and she, I think her eyes were a little sore for a little bit, but it just goes to show the things that student transporters are dealing with, and it's certainly the students as well. So, it's great to see Patrick, as always. He's so entertaining. He's going to have some great things in store for our attendees on June 5th.
Ryan, I'm glad you brought that up. This message from TransFinder is really going to hit home for people because they've taken a special interest, especially in discipline issues. Just like an incident like you described today, kids have incidents, parents have incidents, and guess what happens? They need a form to fill out to make sure these incidents get addressed quickly and easily, and they can be used district-wide. And that's because TransFinder's created a form finder, which makes recording these incidents easy. It's exciting because Form Finder is embedded in TransFinder's Route Finder Plus solution. It's included for free, and its uses go far beyond student conduct, maybe something with parents too, right? Driver incidents. Plus, it is customized for any form in your district's needs. Imagine one clearinghouse for all the forms your district has. You can learn more about this special product, about FormFinder, by emailing getplus@transfinder.com or calling them at 800-373-3609. That's FormFinder, everybody. Make sure and ask TransFinder for it. Tell them STN sent you. All right, Ryan, well, let's get to the headlines. We got Love the Bus. It's February, Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. Everybody loves yellow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So NAPT actually last week sent out an email. We were actually wondering about that. The editorial staff had been talking for the last month about Love the Bus. We're always looking at, ahead at the calendar and the different holidays and the celebrations that are coming up. And it had been kind of quiet on the Love the Bus front. I asked somebody recently about it and was told, I got nothing. So it was good to see that email from NAPT last week. Molly McGee Hewitt, who is the new executive director, got to meet her a little bit down in San Diego at the National School Transportation Association midwinter meeting last month. Really pleasant person. She's got that foundation in education, foundation in transportation, but she's quick to admit that she doesn't know a lot and she's getting up to speed, but she's really eager to be here. I can tell that. Really eager to learn, eager to meet as many people as we can. So she sent out that email last week, alerting the people to all of the resources that are available on AmericanSchoolBusCouncil.com. Devoid, though, of any national celebration. A lot of you will remember, at least before the pandemic, every year there was a big celebration where the three associations and then their OEM partners, Bluebird, IC Bus, and Thomas built buses who underwrite the American School Bus Council, would go out to a select school district somewhere around the nation, and they usually partner with someone from the federal level, a cabinet member, usually at the Department of Transportation, and go out and do this big event. And really COVID submarine that. So we haven't seen that come back yet. But it is good to see that Love the Bus is still there. We noticed that that website, that webpage on AmericanSchoolBusCouncil.com is still active. So you can go there, download a host of resources. They have a toolkit that school districts can download and utilize. They have everything from press release templates to send out to your local media, to coloring books and card templates that the students can create for their drivers, a whole host of stuff. So hopefully folks are starting to think about, if not already planning or have planned what they want to do for Love the Bus, because it's an extremely important event to remember. The importance, of course, school bus safety, promote that, but also promote the jobs of all the school bus drivers and the transportation staff. We were talking ad nauseum over the last couple of years about this driver shortage, the technician shortage. I think there's a shortage of people in general, people and things. So certainly, top of mind should be celebrating those folks who are doing the job day in and day out, a lot of times without much ballyhoo, and sometimes for not a lot of pay. So it's extremely important to let's raise those people up on a pedestal.
Yeah, we were scouring the wire for other headlines, and I ran across an old friend of ours, John O'Leary, who is the president and CEO of Daimler Trucks now. He was formerly the president at Thomas Built Buses, and he was making some larger comments about the market around electrification, specifically in infrastructure. And I was wondering, Ryan, if you could share with the audience a little more about kind of what he was talking about, maybe how we could talk a little bit about maybe some of the other things happening with infrastructure and highway bills and just things happening in the market. I thought it was really interesting, very timely.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what we've been talking about, just, where infrastructure for electric vehicles is just not where it needs to be to support where all this money is going and all this political will is going to get as many of these vehicles on the road as possible. So the article you're referencing, Transport Topics had it. January 31st, John was in Las Vegas attending a media advance of the Manifest conference, so North American Trucking, a big part of that conference. And, he was basically talking about the lack of infrastructure. And they have customers who want to buy, in this case, he's talking about Class 8 Freightliner Cascadias, but take it any model of commercial vehicle, school bus, what we've seen with the buyer's guide production survey that we ran last month, or that we published last month. The appetite is still very strong for all types of school buses, especially electric. We have that Clean School Bus Program. Funds are now delivered, or at least soon will be, to all of the winners of the round 1 rebate. We have this round 2, which is likely going to be a competitive grant, which changes things a little bit, makes things a little bit more complicated. That's expected later this spring. But like I've mentioned before, these electric vehicles, electric school buses, what have you, do no one any good if you can't plug them in. And that's really what what John was talking about. And certainly from a vehicle manufacturing standpoint, that's got to be frustrating, because they build the stuff, but they're not out there putting the chargers in the ground. They're not working with the utilities. They're certainly working closely with those groups. So I think it's more of the same for what school transportation professionals are going to expect. So I think that's going to be a big topic at our Green Bus Summits, both the one we're launching or unveiling in STN Expo Indy in June, and then, of course, returning to Reno about 6 weeks later in July. I think it's going to be a lot of the conversation that folks are going to be trying to wrap their head around.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit from the NSTA conference a few weeks back, is that the lack of funding for infrastructure, or, they just didn't anticipate what the true cost would be. And that's really putting a big barrier for many districts to accept the funds and move forward with some of these electrification-based products. It's tough, right? If you don't have the funding, how are you going to make it work out? And at the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road. Districts can't make it financially viable. They're going to pass, regardless of how much money they get for free buses. You can't have one without the other, right? It's the days of old where you just order your bus and walk away. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. No. There's so many other pieces, and you brought it up a few times over the last couple of weeks. It takes a village, a lot of people involved in the chain that need to be in the process of making a successful deployment. So these are all big things. Now, I know there's other federal monies from other legislative pieces out there. Any chance this might help school districts?
Yeah. So, we've talked a little bit about this. The Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, however you want to call it, that was passed last year. It includes $1 billion for this clean heavy-duty vehicle program, which we understand really is to target school buses. But like everything, Tony, there's a whole bunch of groups out there that are trying to dip their toe into the pool, grab some of that money. We're waiting to hear details on it. EPA has not released full details. Now I have a question to their press people out right now. In fact, as everyone digests this podcast, hopefully I'll be getting the answer to that, get a little bit more clarity. But that supposedly, from what I've heard, there was a listening session held on December 13th. One of the officials said, "Oh, this program should roll out next year," that should be 2023, since that was December. So that's what we're hoping. There is an element also under IRA of an additional $60 million in DERA funds, Additional Emissions Reduction Act, on top of the $100 million that was approved with the omnibus bill by Congress for fiscal year 23. So there is still some funds out there, still need to be realized, still need a lot of detail on that. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, we have the Clean School Bus Program round 2 coming out probably April, May timeframe. Just in time for, again, some great conversations in Indianapolis and Reno with our STN Expos. But, Taylor Ekbatani, you mentioned, she speaks a little bit later to Katie Delano at Coalinga-Huron Unified School District up near Fresno, California. And she talks a little bit about the infrastructures. And to your point, with a lot of school districts, they're just walking away from some of these funds. California, as Katie talks about, is in a little bit of a different boat. Because they have so many grants here and have had so many grants for so long, and the different air districts and the California Energy Commission, and Katie's district is a rural district, so there's a rural school bus program in California, and then you add on the Clean School Bus Program. So they're looking to have their full fleet of, I think it's about 26 or 27 buses, be fully electric by 2025. So heck, we're going to get her to Reno, and she needs to talk a little bit about that. But again, when I talk to folks around the nation, a lot of folks are saying, "Oh, well, that's California, though. They have so much money and have had so much money for so long. They're really out in front of this thing." I think you look at the rest of the 49 states. And maybe aside from some outliers like New York, obviously is very far advanced. Florida, I think, is getting there. Illinois, Washington State, but you look at the rest of the states and all those districts. It's really like they're starting fresh, and they might have one district, one bus, two buses that are electric so far. Michigan has made some inroads, so they're advancing, but still they've had 13 buses. I think they have another dozen or so that are being deployed right now. But still, you look at a state like Michigan, there's a lot of school districts in that state. So we still have a ways to go, definitely. And piggybacking off that, I saw another interesting headline last week. It was on Energy Wire. The headline was, "Why Wyoming Won't Build Biden's EV Chargers." So the dateline is great here, Tony. Halfway between Rock Springs and Rawlins, Wyoming. I should have Taylor on there so she could tell us exactly where that is. She went to the University of Wyoming as an undergrad.
I was going to say, where is that? I know about the national parks in Wyoming, but that's about it, right?
Well, interestingly, so the national parks is actually where some of these EV chargers are going, but that's anti what the Biden administration is trying to do. They're trying to basically line all of our major interstate corridors with all these EV chargers all over the place. The point of this article is the Wyoming legislators are saying, hey, like, this doesn't make sense for us. Wyoming is not a heavily populated state. They don't have a ton of electric vehicles already. Where they do see the influx is those national parks. So they're trying to put more of those in the national parks, and the administration is saying, no, that's not what the point of this is. So, it talks about, there was a bill in 2021 called the Eliminate Lavish Incentives to Electric Vehicles Act. It failed, but it was basically trying to end the federal government's consumer EV tax credits. So there are a lot of folks out there that are pushing back and have been pushing back. And a lot of times, a lot of these folks are across the aisle from the Democrat administration that's at play right now and really pushing all of this money and all of this electric conversation. The Republicans are saying, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense. And certainly you look at a state like Wyoming, too, where, it's a big coal state. So right now, where on one hand, the major way that we can create electricity is with coal. But on the other hand, you have a lot of folks that are trying to close all those coal power plants. So kind of comes back to what we've been talking about with infrastructure and saying, something's got to give. We have all this created demand that, it needs to plug in somewhere. And there's just not a places to plug in. And where they are trying to plug in, folks are saying, hey, this makes no sense. We're out in the middle of nowhere. There's absolutely nothing out here. The Biden administration wants to put chargers basically every 50 miles. So if you're on the interstate, every 50 miles, you're going to be able to charge up, in 20 to 40 minutes, you'll be able to charge. But, there's the picture that heads this article. It's funny. It has a street sign that says Rock Springs with an arrow pointing to the left. And it's just this vast wasteland, for lack of a better term. And that's the point these people are trying to make. They're just saying, like, we need to really think about this and think where this money is best spent.
Yeah, I'm sure weather comes up too. Wyoming isn't exactly hot, right? It's cold, which obviously saps the batteries. Mm-hmm. And I think in the article, I had read it too, and you shared it with me, it was like South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho, maybe Montana, all, again, seem cold to me. Those places are cold.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, but we know that there have been a lot of projects that have been going on for years now, even before the pandemic. I know First Student was doing projects up in Minnesota, really to get their electrification off the ground. And, and smartly so. I mean, it's easy to run electric school buses in Los Angeles, where it's perpetually 65 degrees. And aside from, downtown, or maybe you get up into like the Hollywood Hills or something, not a lot of hilly area, but that's not indicative of what the rest of the nation. So there's been a lot of proving grounds out there. I mentioned Minnesota earlier. They've got a couple dozen electric school buses out there. I know of a contractor out in Alaska. He's got one bus and it's electric. I've been trying to get Glenn down to Reno. It's hard to, getting from Alaska is hard. But I think these things can work. But again, it comes back to the infrastructure. How are people going to charge? All of the project management and the construction that goes into getting the necessary power into the yard. And then talking about what kind of chargers are you going to use. A lot of folks are being sold on the DC fast chargers, and then they're seeing the electric bill once they finally get everything plugged in. And it's going to be great. You can plug these things in 20, 30 minutes after your morning route. You'll be good to go for your afternoon. But then, again, the rubber is not meeting the road, to borrow your term, Tony, because these costs, then the CBOs at the school districts are seeing these and going, wait a second, time out. Like, this was supposed to save us money. We've spent all this time, all this money, construction, ripping up parking lots, putting in these chargers. And then if the chargers do work, which there are some issues out there, some of the chargers not talking with the vehicles properly and a lot of reconfiguring that's needing to go on, then, you're seeing these huge demand rates. So a lot needs to be figured out. And I think that's why the OEMs all have basically some kind of consulting arm. That's so important. You're looking at electric, definitely, look at what's out there. You do your homework. There's a lot of consultants out there. And, certainly at events like STN Expo, where we have a Green Bus Summit, it's a great place to come and talk to those who are running them, have been running them, talk to the folks that are building the buses, that are building the infrastructure, that have experience working with utilities, building out that infrastructure to really make some informed decisions so that when you guys do go electric, which it seems inevitable, everyone's going to eventually probably have to go electric at some point, that you know how to do it. And I hear over and over again, folks telling me, hey, I'll let those folks make the mistakes. And, maybe 5-10 years from now, once things are more figured out, we'll jump in there. And that's where propane is coming in. We'll obviously have, 25,000 or whatever it is, propane school buses out on the road now. And something else that, we're not forgetting about, diesel. Now, we have an article coming up next month on the EPA 2027 emission regs and how essentially, a lot of folks are thinking, hey, this is kind of sounding the death knell for diesel. But, we got to remember that folks are still buying diesel buses today and tomorrow and then, next year. And those buses are going to last 10, 15 years. We have to keep in mind that we need infrastructure for those as well. And, whether it be today's clean diesel, quote unquote, that's, it emits 1/60th of the emissions of 10 years ago, pretty clean, or, the renewable diesel that we're seeing that still needs to ramp up and it needs to be accessible to everyone across the nation, not just on the West Coast. So again, infrastructure.
Yeah, Ryan, appreciate all those thoughts. Want to talk to you a little bit about a message from First Student. They're the nation's leader in student transportation solutions, and they have an approach to help provide your district local team with a national network of support, collaborative planning, customized services that keep your fleet operational and your students safe. First Student moves more passengers every day than all U.S. airlines combined. Caring for students is their first priority, and they are a leader in electrification. They recently reached a milestone by driving over 1 million electric vehicle miles. You guys learn more, visit firststudentinc.com. That's firststudentinc.com. All right, going to dive in. Miss Taylor Ekbatani, take it away.
All right, guys, Taylor Ekbatani here. I'm excited because I have another special guest with me on the School Transportation Nation. I have Katie Delano. She's the Director of Transportation Services for Coalinga-Huron USD in California. And that's about, I want to say 200-ish miles north of us here in Torrance, California. So hello, Katie, my fellow Californian.
Hey, Taylor, how are you? It's nice to be here, and thank you for asking me to be part of your show.
Of course. I'm happy to have you on. I think we've actually been talking, through email and phone calls for a couple years now.
True.
And then I met you in person at the Casto Business Forum in October. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Katie.
Yeah, it was fun to meet you. It's nice to put a face with the name because so many times, you're emailing lots of people and you get to know them, but you don't really get to know them until you see them. And then we had a great conversation and just, we're solving world problems. That's what we're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. And then also happy February. I know the groundhog saw his shadow, so I think we're up for more winter.
Which, you know what, in this area of California, we're very drought stricken. So we're appreciating the extra winter. So maybe a little bit more rain, not too much, because I know in other places it's really been bad. But we were our city was dry. And so now we have some water. So we're thankful.
Okay. Yeah, that's good news.
Yeah, so that's a positive.
Yeah. So you guys didn't get hit with the flooding or anything like that?
No flooding, lots of rain though,
yeah.
Which is totally unusual because we're actually in a rain shelf, which doesn't get rain. So this was exciting for us. We got a lot of rain this year.
Yeah, definitely a lot here down in Torrance too, but we're not used to it.
No. We're like, what is that stuff? Pouring right? From the sky. I'm glad you get there.
Hunker down. Yeah.
Oh, some people don't understand California and its dryness.
Nope. All right, so let's get into it here.
Okay.
Why don't we start, if you can provide a little bit of background on you, on the school district, how you got started in pupil transportation.
Okay, well, I am born and raised in the state of California and went to school in San Diego where I met my husband. And we were both school teachers down there and we were starting to start our family. So moving closer to grandparents because I grew up here in the Central Valley. So we got a job here in Coalinga 32 years ago, which when you start to think that, you're like, wow, that's a long time ago. So my husband and I started our family here, been involved with the school district ever since. We have fed millions of people. Okay, maybe not millions, but thousands. We have clothed children. I've taught night school. We've done volunteer work, worked with the theater department here for about 6 or 7 years. I've done a lot of variety of things, but never paid by the school district, just involved, raised 4 sons, got them through school. And then actually I was executive director of the Chamber of Commerce and was kind of looking like, oh, it's time for a change. And the superintendent hey, you want to be director of transportation? And I laughed. I said, I don't know anything about buses except they're big, yellow, and slow. But so went through the process and learned. It has been a true learning process the last 6 years in my career. I've only been here 6 years and the department needed a little bit of cleaning up. There's a little bit of shenanigans going on, which I guess isn't unusual for most departments. And we moved forward and just have tried to become a very good, very dependable, very reputable, safe department for transportation. And since being in here, I've learned the difference between a 292 and a 295, what are red lights, what's a crossover? I had none of that. So I did get my bus driver's license and I was very excited about that, learning that. So you understand the process of the people you're working with. And it is a great team to be a part of. Most amazing colleagues, true support. I love being part of the transportation world. It's never dull. There's always something new. I came in just in time for the Paul Lee, the No Child Left Behind buzzers on buses. Man, that's a tongue twister. And so, I've just learned constantly. And, it's kind of, some of it's common sense, like, why do we have to have that? But hey, safety for our children is number one. Mm-hmm. And that's our why. That's who we are all about. And in so many ways, bus drivers are the most gracious people I've ever met because their heart and soul, they lay it on the line every day, driving 50 children behind them. As a school teacher, the number one thing we were taught in teacher school was never turn your back on the kids. And I laugh and I said, here we are as bus drivers. First thing, here behind me, and I'm driving away. So, it's been an exciting learning experience. It's, when you stop learning, I think that's a sad day. So this job has definitely kept me on my toes. I don't know if that answers,
No, that encompasses it. That's amazing. And I don't think you should say only 6 years. I feel like that's a long time and you're committed to the industry.
You know what? It is. And it's a whole lifestyle change. The hours you work are crazier than ever. And the people you meet is just, I don't know, it's just been an amazing experience. So if there's anybody out there thinking, should I would say, if you are able, you like to drive, absolutely jump in, because there are so many opportunities. If you're like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to drive a bus forever. There are so many things that you can do. If you're really good with logistics, holy cow, you are a gift to the department, because getting routes done and daily routes done and coverage with, just getting kids to school can always be a challenge. So yeah, jump in and join it, because it's a fun group. It's a really fun group.
Yeah. And speaking of jumping in, I know we're going to talk about electric school buses here in a second, but I kind of want to also have you talk about, the geography, the terrain kind of your district, to kind of give people the lay of the land,
Okay, we are out here in the west side of the Central Valley of California, which means we're about 70 miles south of Fresno, southwest. And if the I-5, if you've gone here, where there's something called Harris Ranch and the Stinky Cows, we are near there, about 13 miles south of there. So we're out in the middle of nowhere, strong agricultural. We have a very good cannabis growth going around us. We were one of the first cities in the state of California to legalize it and have we have a dispensary as well as growth places, as well as a consumable lounge. We also have state prisons around us. And we serve two cities that are 20 miles apart with not much in between. And we cover hundreds of miles in terrain every day, because we have to go pick up branches up in our canyons. We live, there's a Los Gatos Canyon and a Worthen Canyon that we go up and we pick up children. So we cover a big area, flat, mostly except for our canyons, and very dry, usually weather. It's hot and sunny.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're out in the middle. We're a very rural school district, very rural.
All right, perfect. So jumping into your road to electric school buses, you got the Clean School Bus Program grant. What does that kind of look like for you guys and your electric school bus kind of growth?
Well, we were lucky enough to receive 5 electric buses already from the San Joaquin Valley Air Board previously. We jumped on that grant because we needed new school buses and we didn't have money in our school district. So we applied for those grants and we got $2 million for 5 buses. And then we got another million for infrastructure. So we worked with PG&E. We worked with, at that point, ChargePoint. And then our buses are Bluebirds, and we got 5 buses from them. They are 21s. They're kind of a newer one. So there's been some quirks that we've had to work through, but they're good for routing. They're not good for trips, but they're excellent for routing. We can do any route in them and to and from, but then they do have to charge during the day. But working with PG&E, working with Bluebird, and working with ChargePoint at that point, we got our electric buses in. The chargers weren't quite accurate because there was a miscommunication, but we got our chargers kind of up to par. But we do charge. They come in after the route, because it's usually about 100 miles they do routes, and they use up all their units, miles. We have to charge them, and then they go back out in the afternoon. Sometimes it's a challenge on minimum days, but so far, so good. We're doing okay. So when we saw the EPA grant, I said, what the heck, we'll apply. Maybe we'll get another bus, because we're still in need, because our buses are old. When I came in, they were 15 to 20 years old and just aging as I was speaking, and we're spending a lot on repairs. So that's why we went after the electric. And some people were like, oh, you don't want to do electric. But I said, what the heck, if that's where we're headed. And then that's, of course, what the governor has come out, that he'd like to see all electric. So EPA, we applied. I submitted all of them, all my buses that were left. And we got 13 of them covered in the EPA grant, plus a good chunk of money for infrastructure. And we also had received 3 HVIB buses at that point too. And so I was thinking, where am I going to charge all these guys? And I thought to myself, well, we have a Huron bus garage. We have a bus garage in Coalinga. We have a bus garage in Huron. So we're going to turn our Huron bus garage into an electric bus garage, as totally 100% electric. So we're working with, on this one, New V. We're working with Bluebird again, and we're working with Site Logic to help us. All of these guys are helping us in PG&E to get our chargers up and running. So then and our buses are in the queue. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you kind of told me earlier when you were hoping for 1 or 2 buses. And so to hear that you got, 13 is huge.
It was mind blowing. I was stunned. I go, excuse me, 13? I thought it said 3. And then she goes, no, it's 13. And I'm 13. That was kind of like, oh my George, it's a moment that you're thinking, how is that possible? We were sincerely in awe and sincerely thinking this is going to be pretty terrific. And then the other thing is I had applied again for San Joaquin Valley Airport and Carl Moyer grant. I got 6 more. So our whole fleet will go electric with the reserve of 6 diesels so that we can do trips, because trips for us are like 120 miles one way and not all schools have a charger. So we do still need, and I couldn't get our kids to Disneyland, or I couldn't get our kids to Magic Mountain or Grad Night or wherever they needed to go, SeaWorld, wherever they're going. I do still need diesels for those, but they are clean running diesels because my school district's saving all this money is costing us a fraction to buy buses. I was able to buy 4 new diesel buses as well. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going to be in some really good shape by 2025. I think it will all be said and done, and we will have lots of electric to take care of. Plus, we have seatbelts now in our buses. We have 100% air conditioning will be in our buses, which is a need in our area because it is can get, especially in the coming back to school, 100 plus degrees. It's a need, not a want. We have new camera systems on our buses. So, it's been very helpful in that regard. So we're kind of catching up to being in the 21st century, and it's kind of exciting. And my drivers at first were like, no electric. And then, yes, I want the electric. And no, I want the, and it's interesting, but I was driving electric and I loved it. It was so easy to drive. It's a wonderful bus to drive. And the Mars are full on transit. And now we're going to move to some microbirds and special ed buses. And we're getting now buses with the child seats already built in too. And that's really good too, because now with TK coming in, we're going to be prepared for on so many levels, more so than we were, when I first started.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Nuvi, who is actually our green tip for this episode. So we're going to go ahead and let Tony jump in real quick and give us our green tip.
All right, Taylor and Katie, thanks for stopping for a minute. Your great conversation. Want to bring you a tip. It's a green tip from Nuvi, a clean tech company helping schools intelligently electrify their fleets. Nuvi offers complete turnkey solutions to help schools confidently electrify their fleets. They provide expert guidance through every step of the process, from selecting electric buses and recommending the best charging solution based on your district's routes, to grant writing support and flexible financing options. With Nuvi, you'll enjoy the world's most intelligent charging solution. Simple tools for your transportation directors and drivers, and the opportunity to bring cleaner rides to your students and communities today. To get started, visit Nuvi, that's NUVVE.com/STN. All right, Taylor, back to you.
Okay, so you mentioned, being a rural school district. So how are you able to kind of allocate those resources for electric school buses? That's a big undertaking for any district. And so maybe being rural or smaller, are you kind of having some challenges, or did you set up a team to kind of push this initiative through?
Okay, that's a big question. Okay, how am I doing this? Okay, it's called teamwork. If I didn't have a supportive team behind me, from my mechanics to my bus drivers, they all helped me submit the grant. And we're all going, if we get one, wow, we're pretty excited. And then I basically been working with our maintenance operations and helping us get our setup. Plus our local power, PG&E, which is our power source, has been pretty fabulous in helping us out, as well as SiteLogic, which is an overseer of things, as well as our district has been very good about supporting it. Our board has been absolutely terrific in supporting the change to electric, and working with Nuvi. So we're getting it's a constant group effort. It's a constant communication. Some days I think I don't even know what I did today because I think I just spoke Greek because I'm not quite sure what's happening. But we have reached out and I have learned, the difference. I've learned things that I never thought I would learn. And again, it's like I said in the beginning, education never stops. When you stop learning, then that's the sad day. So it's a constant learning experience. And we learned that the chargers that we put in originally were not the best for buses. They're better for a Prius, so we, we learned that. And so we're going to, we're moving to a little bit stronger or actually a lot more stronger charger that is more appropriate for industry. But, moving on, we have new people in the district helping us with their views, and they're bringing them in, trying to keep us legal, trying to keep with the state of California what they would like us to be, possibly with the bill that was introduced and then put on hold. Maybe we have to give all children a ride to school soon. That's going to be an impact. But I think I'm looking at the future and I'm saying we're going to try to be covering all those bases. What frightens me a little bit is when a bus goes down and it does take some time to get fixed, because it's not a quick fix that all our mechanics can do in town. We have great mechanics. They can know their diesels. They're just learning electric. So that's a problem there. But it's again a learning process, and things are getting faster, than when we first started in 21. So here we go. Every month is a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit more knowledge is shared and brought on. But it's a team effort. I mean, so it's like when you say, how did you plan for it? I didn't really, because I didn't think we'd ever get a bus. And then all of a sudden, the first one, when I got 5, I thought we were on hog heaven. And then literally, then I got 3. Like, what? Actually, I was awarded 7. I go, well, I can't afford 7. Let's take 3. And they're like, okay. And then I laughed. And then the EPA, oh my, I keep thinking it's like raining electric school buses over here. So we're gathering, as we gather them, we continue to gather more information in order to serve that. So that's why we are moving 13 of those buses will be in Huron. Right now, we traditionally have 3 buses over there. But we're going to improve our yard, make it for 13, so that we can have power both in Coalinga, proper power in Coalinga, and proper power in Huron to charge buses, and then be able to rotate and move in and out. So I'm just thinking it's pretty exciting. So like if people want me to get into the actual like K wattage and all that, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's very technical, but it is, that's a sit down. You have to have a paper and pen. I have to have a paper and pen in front of me and write it down, and you have to tell me what's going on. And that's where I am. So I hope that answered the question. That's like such a big one.
Yeah. And kind of jumping on that infrastructure portion a little bit, how you said it's been working with the people around you, working with PG&E and trying to get that set up. But how has that process been, with the EPA grant? I know a lot of people wish they kind of had that funding for infrastructure before, because now it seems like you have everything at once and you got to set up this infrastructure and buy the buses. What's kind of been your experience there?
Okay, it's a rush. I feel we're rushed. I feel like we're making decisions very quickly. But because I had already done some of this before, I feel like I have a little bit more knowledge. And so having, some background has been good. It's also been very good to have people like our A to Z bus person is very good, very knowledgeable. Our Nuvi people are really good to be very knowledgeable. And so it's like PG&E, if I call and talk to them, everybody's giving me answers that I understand now. It's not a foreign language. And it's just constant. So I'm hoping that we can get our infrastructure in before the buses. It worked the last time perfectly. So buses probably are delayed a little bit longer because there is quite a waiting list to get buses. So I'm hoping that we get our infrastructure done and then the buses start to arrive. I'm hoping that's the way it works, but I hear some people have their buses in the yard long before they get the infrastructure done. But I'm moving along on the infrastructure because I know how important that is. And we were, like I said, the last time, very lucky to get it done first because the buses were pushed back by about 6 months. So I'm anticipating the buses there on order, but not going to be probably here till almost 2024, probably not even a year from now. I'm thinking maybe August of 2024. So it's just because it's a big order and I have like 20 buses coming or 19 buses coming. So I'm thinking it's not going to all happen at once. We're going to get a group and then another group and then another group. So I might get my HVIB maybe by the time school starts in August, but we're having those plugs taken care of here now. So I'm just lucky that things are falling into place for us. That I think it's a lot of luck because you can't push a power company to bring power if they don't have power. They control a lot. And if you have a good relationship with them, I think that helps. And PG&E is really excited about helping us and bringing more electric because we're in an underserved area. So I think that helps. Maybe. Let's hope. But, it is a lot of luck and a lot of communication. But I feel very rushed right now making decisions and, okay, we got to get this in so that we don't lose our place on the ground.
Right. And funding wise, I think it's $20,000 per bus per charger. Is that sufficient for you guys?
Well, I'm going to say I'm applying for other grants that are out there, like for Renew America Schools, et cetera, that are out there for structure, because we have to really redo the Huron bus garage because it's not really compliant for electric buses right now. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So hopefully we'll see some structure come in. But because ESSER funds and that, we aren't using those, please know that. But for ESSER funds have provided so many other areas for within the school district, the general fund where the transportation comes out of, there's more money there. And so we're being a little bit more able to do things because of the flexibility of funds within the school district. So what isn't being covered, I'm hoping we get more grants because we'll continue to apply for them. And you never know. And hopefully we'll get something, some more to help us. But $20,000 because we're doing a lot of level 2s, not a lot of fast DC chargers, which are the most expensive. We have $260,000 from the EPA for our infrastructure. And I think we can do I think it'll do a lot for us. And PG&E is going to help us bring the power right up to the meter, and then we can pick up from the meter to the chargers. I think we're going to be okay. So again, we've got grants going for all of that again.
Okay.
More grants. I'm laughing. Someone goes, "You're the grant queen." I'm like, no, I just go, I don't want to pay. And we don't have the money to pay. So let's figure out how we can do this.
Right. And the money's out there.
Yeah, the money is out there. Absolutely. Just keep looking because grants are everywhere. And I think if you start with one and you basically have all your information gathered, it's really easy to continue to submit information and share that with other areas that are asking for it. So don't lose the information once you get it together on per bus, per charger, that kind of stuff. You want to have a whole chunky binder full of it. And I'm literally living that. I know, still paper in the year 2023, but it works for us.
Hey, if it works, that's all that matters.
That's right. So far, it's working so far because we're doing good on grants.
Good.
Yeah.
It's great to hear. And I know you've been saying kind of like total bus fleet, but I don't know if you actually gave us a number. How many school buses are you guys running?
We run 25 buses. We have a fleet of 25.
And so those should all be electric soon-ish?
By 2025, we should have probably all electric. I think it's going to come in stages because we have 5 right now. We're getting 3 HVIP. We have 6 from the San Joaquin Valley Air Board, and then we have the 13 from the EPA grant. So that's 22.
Doing math on the spot.
22. Plus then we have 7 diesels. So, because we're keeping one older diesel, like a 2014. And so we'll have 7 diesels. So we'll actually have more buses after this is all said and done than we have right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's so exciting.
It is very exciting. And who would have thunk? Because when I came, there wasn't a plan, anything for buses. And I'm like, some of our buses are we still have a 1992 on lot and a 93 and a 98. So I'm thinking we got to clean these up. So, and the electric are so wonderful. They are clean. Our diesels are very clean as well. Don't get me wrong. And I love our diesels just as much because they're amazing. But it's nice not to have to turn off your bus every time you load and unload because there's no emissions coming out of it. So that kind of is fun, especially when you're doing littles, and littles can be a challenge, loading because they take forever, and unloading. Oh my goodness. They're a cute as bug, but man, they can take forever. Bus driver. Lots of questions.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure.
But anyway, we're just very, very blessed, very lucky.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your perspective on electric school buses and all the excitement that's happening. I could definitely feel it through the screen here. So I hope our listeners can feel it as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, thank you for having me. This has been pretty awesome. And I'm very passionate about the electrics. I think they're very exciting. Are they perfect? No, but heck, there isn't a perfection. And so I think it's going to be a really good thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again.
A special thanks to Ryan, Taylor, Katie. Great conversation today, guys. I really appreciate everyone being on here. Special thanks to our sponsors, TransFinder, First Student, and Newbie. We couldn't do it without you guys. Make sure you check out our sponsors. That's what makes this podcast so great. They make it happen for us. Thank you so much to them. Remember, guys, subscribe to the STN podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Share it on social media too. You see us posting, repost it. Get it out there. Make sure everybody in the nation sees it, hears it. We love you guys. Visit stnonline.com for all the latest happenings in the school transportation industry, and make sure and sign up for STN Expo and Green Bus Summit this summer. We'd love to see you June or July. Indianapolis, Reno, stnexpo.com for all the details. Guys, we love you. We'll see you next week.